Hey everybody, it's your old pal Chuck, and I'm back with another review. And today we're taking a look at from the Power Rangers Lightning Collection line. This is the White Power Ranger. This is a new line from Hasbro. As we all know, they've got the license to Power Rangers, and this is part of their 6-inch collectible line. So basically, they're taking the Bucky Cat mold from Marvel Legends and using it for Power Rangers, since, all Marvel Legends are the Bucky Cat mold, and the Bucky Cat mold is just a reshell of a Nerf Jolt. I'm kidding. This is actually a really cool figure. I wanted to try it out since I do enjoy Marvel Legends, and I wanted to see really what Hasbro, who in North America has cornered the market on the 6-inch adult collectible figure market, could do with something like Power Rangers. As we all know, Power Rangers was done by Bandai, and Bandai really makes the best 6-inch collectible figures in the world with their SH Figuarts line. Well, I have to say, I think this is just as good as the Figuart. I've heard other collectors who are more Power Ranger fans than I am say this is just as good as the SH Figuart White Ranger, or I forget what the Japanese series was called, but interesting to note is that the character in Japan was actually a small child that when he morphed or changed became a full-sized adult. Not a very popular character in Japan, and not a popular Sentai series either, from what I can remember. But as you can see, the detailing is very nice. This does look a lot like the original suit. Very articulated. As you can see, I have this nice little action pose going. Saba is included. We will take a closer look at Saba in a few moments, but I have him posed here because you can show off the sheath there. There are some extra accessories and parts, so I think what we'll do is we'll pause right here at this moment, take a look at those extra accessories, and then we'll come back with a discussion of the articulation of the figure. Okay, and here are the accessories. Really nothing overly crazy. I mean, first we have Saba, and I think this is my first complaint, and it has to do with the fact that it's very hard to get Saba into the sword-holding hand. I would have preferred if there was some way that the handle could detach from the hilt and you can slide it through. But lots of paint, very highly decorated. As I've said, pretty much every paint detail that would need to be here is both sides. I mean, it's a really nice looking scimitar. I do believe this is the type of saber, but mouth is open and all that, and you can hold it, right way and this way and what have you. Next up, we do have a pair of interchangeable fists, and I gotta be honest with you, I find those kind of pointless. I think I would have preferred maybe a pair of relaxed hands or slightly curved hands, like, that you could do some different posing with. As it is, I'm going to leave the hands as they are, namely the sword holding hand and the karate chop hand that comes standard on the figure, because these pegs are very thin. And just changing back to the chop hand, I did have the peg bend a little, and I know of at least in one case the pegs have already broken. I don't remember if I ever had a Marvel Legend with interchangeable hands, so I don't know how that works or not. But they all do have the wrist hinge here that goes in and out, which, by the way, is a little bit different than what you would see on the box. The box clearly shows that the sword-holding hand for the White Ranger had that up and down sword wrist. So why they changed it, I don't know. Next up is this little effect piece for Saba. Basically, the way this works is right here where my thumb is a little slot that you would slide this into. You can go do it any way you like, depending on how you want the blast effect to look. I don't remember ever seeing a blast effect. Then again, I would never really watched Power Rangers, but it is nice to be there, but I'm really not going to use it. And then finally, we have our little head of Tommy Oliver. Much like the hands, the heads pop on and off very, very difficultly. They go on very tightly. But it is nice to have. I think I would have preferred a little ball joint or swivel in the ponytail just to get some more action movement out of it. But this is a nice representation of Jason David Frank as he looked back in the day. Funny thing about Jason David Frank, I wonder if he ever got a phone call from Vince McMahon or Eric Bischoff. With his charisma and athletic ability, he could have drawn some serious money back in the 90s. I mean, I know he's getting into wrestling now, but a little bit, late. But yeah, honestly, for how I would use this figure, I wouldn't use this head much, if at all. But it is a nice touch that it was included. And maybe down the line, we'll see more of these Lightning Collection figures that will have, more hands that are a bit more expressive and would work better with the nature of the figure. Okay, and here we are back looking at the White Ranger. As I mentioned, there's the sword holding hand and the chopping hand. Like most overly articulated figures, there is a little bit of fiddle just to get him to stand in a neutral type pose. But I have to say, I was halfway joking about them using the Bucky Cap mold. But, right here in the chest, they actually do have this armpit joint, which maybe this is the Bucky Cap mold. But starting at the head, it is on a ball joint. You have that full range of motion. You also have a neck joint, so you can do a little pile driver. Besides the armpit joint, you do have up and down arm movement, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. Rotation here at the wrist, and there's that joint there on the karate chopping hand. You do have a upper torso joint as well as an ab crunch that goes forward and back. And then coming down to the legs, you have forward and back rotation. Obviously not as much back due to the glutes there. Out to the side, swivel here, double jointed knees, give you a good, nice martial arts pose. And then coming down to the legs is the type of ankle and calf articulation that I like. Boot cut, forward and back, ankle pivot. Very tight, but can you get up a little more there? I think you can get it up a little. I really don't want to bend the pegs, but you also have ankle pivot. And now this is the nice thing, because of that boot cut with the ankle pivot, when you're doing like a kneeling pose or something, you can actually, do a proper kneeling pose that doesn't look like the ankle is broken. So that's really nice. Let me bring Saba in and I'll show you what I mean about getting the sword in the hand. Now, of course, I've had Saba in it for a couple days, but there we go. Oh, look at that, make a liar out of me. I actually broke the figure in enough that it actually went in easily, but you do have, like I said, the nice posing and all that to do the various martial arts signature poses of the Power Rangers. But I do wish that this hand did have that up and down movement as was shown on the box, just to be able to, better articulate and, do some sword wielding and what have you. So we'll pause and I'll give you my final thoughts. As I said in the beginning, it's really not that hard to get this figure to get into good poses. It's obviously much easier than Revoltech figures. Again, like most articulated figures, neutral poses are an issue, but an action pose like this, which is how most of you would pose your Power Ranger figures, are done very easily, and it stands. That's one thing that's very important. There's no stand here or anything. It's standing on its own. The joints can bend in a way to support the figure, which, again, very important. Because a lot of times those figures don't do that. I'm happy with the figure. I don't know if I'll be buying more of the Lightning Collection. That's just because I'm not that big of a Power Ranger fan. Maybe I'll get the Green Ranger or one of the original Red Rangers. They are splitting up the original cast over so many waves. Some people like that, some people don't. But you are getting a nice little assortment and sampling of the various Power Ranger shows throughout history that Hasbro had nothing to do with. I mean, they could have really just started off by focusing exclusively on Beast Morphers, and they're not doing that, which I think is a really cool thing on their part. One thing off the top I know is that Goldar, of all characters, is going to be a GameStop exclusive, which I have a problem with. I think as a core and classic character, he should be available at mass retail. But with all that being said, I got this figure off of Amazon.com. They are available now in brick and mortar stores across the country. So if you're a fan of the White Ranger, and to be honest, if you're a fan of Power Rangers, I don't see how you couldn't be a fan of the White Ranger. The figure's definitely worth a pickup. It costs about $20, which is the going rate for a domestically produced 6-inch collectible action figure. So, this is your old pal Chuck for the White Ranger. We will see you next time.